If you have a Toyota Camry like me and the bottom of your screen doesn't work, like I can't tap anything below here, then this is the video for you. So in this video, in the first step, I'm going to show you how to take the entire head unit out, and then we're going to take the head unit inside and replace just the screen. Alright, so let's get started. Alright, the first step to taking out the head unit is to pry open this little cubby. You just pry it with your hands on both sides. And here's the clips on the bottom, orange, holding it in. Now set that aside, and there is 1 screw and 2 screws. And there is this connector plugged in. Now when you unplug it, there is a tab on the bottom that you have to push in to take it out. Alright, I have the screws unscrewed and the cable disconnected. Now the next step is to put the shifter in neutral. So when we take it out, we have room to move this entire assembly. Make sure your parking brake is on so your car doesn't just roll away. Alright, now that the shifter is in neutral, you just pry up the sides from here, and you can see this whole thing is moving. And I'm not going to take it all the way out because I just need room to work. So I'm just going to, with the shifter in neutral to give me that room, I'm just going to twist it to the side. Now that we have this sitting like this, there's going to be 2 screws, 1, 2, holding this little cubby in. We need to take it out. Once you have those 2 screws out, just pry this whole thing out and put it aside. Now just a little note, while taking this out, you will have a cable like that underneath, and make sure that you press the locking tab to take out the connector. Don't just rip it out. Alright, now we have to take out the head unit mounting screws. So there's 1, 2, and if you look under, there's 2 10mm bolts here as well. So take those out. Okay, now that you have all the mounting stuff from the bottom out, we're gonna take off this air conditioning vent, and there's 2 10mm bolts under there, and then everything holding on the radio is gonna be out. So to take this off, I just use the plastic pry tool under here to just pry it out. And when you take it off, there is a cable back there, so make sure you don't pull on that cable. You don't actually need to take it the whole way out. You can just set it aside because all we need is access to these 2 bolts. And now we're gonna take those out. Okay, now that the 2 bolts are out, all you gotta do is give it a firm grasp from up here and down here with both of your hands, and just pull it out. Alright, here it is. So now there's gonna be a bunch of connectors in the back, so don't be rough with this. Just be careful, take the connectors off one by one, and then we're gonna get to fixing the unit. Alright, so removing all the connectors is pretty easy. They're all standard push down and pull. Now this one is a little weird where you have to push down on the edge, but it wasn't too bad. There's also this black one down here, don't forget that one. And now let's head inside the unit. Alright, now here's a free tip for you. Before working on it, you can take off both of the knobs. So when you set it down, it sits nice and flat and it doesn't rock around. Alright, so the first step is going to be to take off the climate vents off of the assembly. To do that, there's these 2 black screws here, these 2 here, and while you're here, you might as well also take these 3 off and these 3 off. Then this entire thing is going to come off, and this plastic piece is going to come off. Alright, now with those screws and brackets removed, the climate vents, you can pry up on them and set them aside. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You gotta remove those before you can pry it out. And one last thing, there are 2 little tiny screws holding this bottom part in 2. And then you can just wiggle and twist it out. Alright, so now when you're prying this out, just please be really careful because there are these cables. I removed the cover to show you how it looks. They're attached down here. So when you're pulling this up, if you rip out the cables, then you might damage them. So just pulling it out, just be really gentle, and you can kind of shimmy it up and then undo those and then pull the whole thing out. Now that is pretty much the hardest job for me, is getting this thing off of the plastic pieces. It's just a bunch of wiggling and twisting, but now I do have it off, and now we're gonna go and unscrew these 4 screws holding the screen assembly on. Okay, once you have the 4 screws out, you want to use a plastic tool, remember, like this little pry thing, to pop up these tabs, 1, 2, 3. And with these black tabs, what you have to do is you pry it out from the 2 little ends, kind of like that, and then you take the cable out. Alright, once you have this out, you can clear out your work area, because now we're going to be working on just this. Okay, once you have this piece, you can pry out these plastic tabs and then lift this whole thing out. Alright, and finally, this is the culprit of all your problems. So you can just take the old one out from around the plastic, just kind of push it out and grab your new one. Alright, now I've installed my new one in and taken my old one out, and some tips that I do want to give you is make sure you don't touch that, and if you do, just clean it up, because you will see it through the car if it's dirty. It's the same thing about the underside of this. If you leave any dirt or fingerprints in there, it's going to show. And just one tip I do want to give you is when you're removing everything, just make sure that you keep it in the same orientation. So when now I removed mine in this orientation so I know which way the ribbon goes and whatever. So just do the whole process slow, step by step, and just make sure you're just transferring everything right as it was before. Alright, now I put the plastic thing back on here and make sure everything is lined up in the front and nothing is too dirty, because you will not have a chance to clean this after it's done. Now you just want to plug your thing back in and make sure everything is lined up correctly back here as well. Alright, now you just want to put the thing back in its housing, plug in all the cables, get those 4 screws on the outside in, and let's go to the next step. Okay, so during reassembly I actually found that it's easier if you take the cover off of here and plug the ribbon cables into the head unit and then put it in here through the hole and then plug it in. Alright, now I'm back in the car and I'm just putting everything back as I took it out. Alright, and here's the moment of truth. I just put it back in so I can test it, and let's see if everything works. So yeah, now you can see all the buttons, even in the bottom of the screen, work. And I'm just going to button the plastic things back up. And thanks for watching, and good luck if you're doing this. It is actually not so bad.